there's no way he can stay. There's no, you can lose, but there's a way of losing, isn't there? And even with 11 men, that first half was so insipid. It was just apathy. It was beyond awful. So if the players aren't putting in the effort, and that is what was missing more than anything else, effort, then I'm afraid it goes to the coach, because it's his job to motivate them. It's his job to inspire them. And they were just A1 awful. They were rank bad, dreadful. Honestly, I think it's a big couple of games coming up for him, and they're away from home, Porto, and then Villa, and then it's the international break. Now, often when clubs make a change, they do so in the international break because it gives the new manager time to work with whatever players are left at the club. So I think the next two games could be absolutely critical as to what happens next. And also, there's a lot on this on Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his staff at Ineos. They are the minority shareholder at Manchester United, but they're in charge of football operations. So this is a big call for them. If they want to be where they say they want to take the club, at what point do they look at each other and say, hey, enough's enough? And don't forget, let's not pretend. They spoke to other managers this season, this summer. Even though they won the FA Cup, they spoke to other managers. Now, they couldn't find the right manager, so they ended up extending his contract. So that they don't come out of this smelling of roses either. It's a mess. And for a club the size of Manchester United, I mean, look at this, and Mickey van der Ven, it opens up like the Red Sea, doesn't it? There's just nowhere. I know he's pacey, but there's just nowhere near enough effort. Brennan Johnson's smiling before he even runs onto the ball. Look at that. I mean, I'm sorry. That's, no Manchester United fan is going to look at that and say, well, at least we put a shift in today. Because they did.
No, that's for sure. Geoff, I'm trying to, see the big picture. If you're Manchester United and say, you know what, we don't want to sack a manager and show how emotional we are and irrational maybe after one match. And anyone can have a bad match, but this is consecutive matches at home losing without scoring. And the last time Man United did that, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was there.
Yeah, but
and that was in November of 21. Now, what I'm saying is, what is the way forward? If Ten Hag is to be the manager at the end of this season, how does it work? How does it happen, given what we're seeing from this United side right now?
Well, I think I would always go back to the old adage that as a manager, two things get you the sack. Your signings, if they don't work out, and results, predominantly results. Right now, his signings don't look particularly good, and his results certainly don't look very good. Two of the smaller domestic trophies is not enough for a club of the stature of Manchester United. They can't keep limping along like this, finishing outside the European places. And at that point, at what point do Manchester United or Ineos in particular say, look, if we carry on like this, this is where we're going to end up. This is what we've got. We can't see any improvement. And I don't think it would be an emotional decision. I think they'll make a business decision, as they should, as to whether or not they can see that they are going in the right direction. But I don't think anybody should be surprised. As I said just now, Charlie, there are already doubts about Erik ten Hag. And the reason he wasn't replaced in the summer was they couldn't find a suitable replacement. Now, what they've got to say to themselves, who could we bring in right now? You can't just get rid of a manager for the sake of it because the results aren't good enough. You've got to look at who's coming in. They must have some sort of idea. They must have a succession plan. Every good club has in mind who the next manager might be in an ideal world. And surely they're not going to say anything publicly, but they're going to be thinking about this and they're going to be talking about this right now. No matter what anybody says, no matter what noises come outside the club, these results are not good enough. And the performance was just way, way, way less than acceptable.
Well, Thomas Tuchel doesn't have a job, so maybe he, make a phone call. I want to ask about just the overall. What is the feeling in England about the way, we'll call it the Jim Ratcliffe era? I recently read that they had a 250-person sack list. They had to fire 250 people from the Manchester United staff. They also fired a club historian who'd been there for 40 years, the beloved Kitman, who's been there for 25 years. I'm also hearing that the front office staff or the working staff has been told that they will no longer get lunches. In fact, they have to eat the leftovers from the suites, from the private suites. Talk to me about what's going on at Manchester United. Do you think everything is as peachy keen as they believe it, as at least that they're making it seem behind the scenes?
Yeah, as you will know, when new owners come in, they look at the business, and they look at the costs, and they look at the operational side of the club as well. Now, of course, it's easy to be emotional around positions in football clubs, and I know some of the people you're talking about as well. I know them personally, and it's a really, really difficult time for them. But if somebody comes in who doesn't have that history within the club, who doesn't have that association, who hasn't said, morning, how are you, literally all the time to the individuals, they're going to make non-emotional decisions, aren't they? And if they feel the club hasn't been run correctly, then they're going to make changes. And they may well point out the error of the ways, in their opinion, as where the club is going wrong. But I think these things, for the individuals, of course, these are huge things. But compared to actually getting the results right and the club going in the right direction and everybody pulling together, it is, if you like, the headlines around it are a distraction. But I agree with you, Alexis. You need everybody pulling together, right from the bottom all the way to the top. You need everybody pulling in the same direction. And I think that's what they're trying to achieve. Now, they've done a lot of that behind the scenes. Obviously, there's talk as well, what they're going to do with the stadium. And that's a £1 billion job, absolute minimum. So they've got to get everything going the right way. But doing those things is always a lot easier when the results are good. So there will be less attention on those things. As I say, not that they're not important. Of course they are. People's livelihoods are at stake. But it adds to, if you like, and I think that's what you're alluding to, a general picture of unhappiness in and around Old Trafford at the moment.
I just feel that United, would you agree that?
I know, I'm like, oh, poor Lord, man.
Do you see the sadness on my face?
Here, bro?
Do you see the sadness on my face?
I can see the somber in your face. I just feel that maybe Ten Hag is still in a job because there isn't a convincing enough candidate out there for United to say, you know what, we're gonna part ways with Ten Hag. If someone was a massive candidate out there, they'd be willing to make that move, I think, sooner than later.
Well, they did a search and they didn't find anyone.
Yeah. But don't forget that search may change. Maybe they went to some candidates in the summer, and we know they did.
Yeah.
And said, okay, would you come in? This is what you got to spend, and this is what we're offering. Now, a couple of those candidates said, no thanks, you're okay. I'll leave that. You're fine. They may have to go back to the table with an awful lot more and say, okay, you can have this, and it could be anything. It could be bring in your own team. This is what we're going to spend in January. These are the targets we think we should go for. It's this length of contract. It's this salary. They are a less attractive. Listen, Manchester United will always be a huge pull for the best coaches in the world. But that didn't happen this summer. So they should be worried as well why they didn't have somebody knocking their door down to take over as coach. Maybe the terms they were offering weren't as attractive as they thought they were.
Well, Dan Ashworth needs to be told he's no longer on gardening leave. Buddy, get to work.
Oh, man.
Well, they've got to do something. They've got to do something because at the moment it's only headed one way, and this can't continue.
Absolute rubbish.
Oh, jeez. Can we
I've stayed quiet.
I know.
I've just been sitting there taking shots.
Just been kind of like looking
Geoff,
down.
thank you for being on best behavior. You could have said a lot worse.
Oh, Lord.